朋友们，在12月6号，美国著名记者卡尔森到俄罗斯采访了俄罗斯的国防部长拉夫罗夫。这个采访在外国网站上获得了巨大的点播量，1个小时破10万，大约是6个小时吧，破了300万。今天给大家看一个片段，希望大家一定要用心去看，一定会有感悟。在后半段，我说几下个人观点。
Minister Lavrov, thank you for doing this. Do you believe the United States and Russia are at war with each other right now?
I wouldn't say so. And in any case, this is not what we want. We would like to have normal relations with all our neighbors, of course, but generally with all countries on earth, especially with the great country like the United States. President Putin repeatedly expressed his respect for the American people, for the American history, for the American achievements in the world, and we don't see any reason why Russia and the United States cannot cooperate for the sake of the universe.
But the United States is funding a conflict that you're involved in, of course, and now is allowing attacks on Russia itself. So that doesn't constitute war?
We officially are not at war. But what is going on in Ukraine is some people call it hybrid war. I would call it hybrid war as well. But it is obvious that the Ukrainians would not be able to do what they're doing with long-range modern weapons without direct participation of the American servicemen. And this is dangerous, no doubt about this. We don't want to aggravate the situation, but since ATACMS and other long-range weapons are being used against mainland Russia, as it were, we are sending signals, and we hope that the last one, a couple of weeks ago, the signal with the new weapon system called the Oreshnik,
yes,
was taken seriously. However, we also know that some officials in the Pentagon and in other places, including NATO, they started saying in the last few days something like, well, NATO is a defensive alliance, but sometimes you can strike first because the attack is the best defense. Some others in Stratcom, I think, Buchanan is his name, representative of Stratcom, he said something which allows for an eventuality of exchange of limited nuclear strikes. And this kind of threats are really worrying, because if they are following the logic which some Westerners have been pronouncing lately, that, well, don't believe that Russia has red lines, they announce their red lines, these red lines are being moved again and again and again, this is a very serious mistake. That's what I would like to say in response to this question. It is not us who started the war. Putin repeatedly said that we started the operation in order to end the war which Kiev regime was conducting against its own people in the parts of Donbass. Just in his latest statement, the president clearly indicated that we are ready for any eventuality, but we strongly prefer peaceful solution through negotiations on the basis of respecting legitimate security interests of Russia and on the basis of respecting the people who live in Ukraine, who still live in Ukraine being Russians, and their basic human rights, language rights, religious rights have been exterminated by series of legislation passed by the Ukrainian parliament, and they started long before the special military operation. Since 2017, legislation was passed prohibiting Russian education in Russian, prohibiting Russian media operating in Ukraine, then prohibiting Ukrainian media working in Russian language, and the latest, of course, there were also steps to cancel any cultural events in Russian. Russian books were thrown out of libraries and exterminated. And the latest was the law prohibiting canonic Orthodox Church, Ukrainian Orthodox Church. And you know, it's very interesting when people in the West say we want this conflict to be resolved on the basis of the UN Charter and respect for territorial integrity of Ukraine, Russia must withdraw. The Secretary General of the United Nations says similar things. Recently, his representative repeated that the conflict must be resolved on the basis of international law, UN Charter, General Assembly resolutions, while respecting territorial integrity of Ukraine. It's a misnomer, because if you want to respect the United Nations Charter, you have to respect it in its entirety. And the United Nations Charter, among other things, says that all countries must respect equality of states and the right of people for self-determination. And they also mentioned the United Nations General Assembly resolutions, and this is clear that what they mean is the series of resolutions which they passed after the beginning of the special military operation, and which demand condemnation of Russia, Russia get out of Ukraine territory in 1991 borders. But there are other United Nations General Assembly resolutions which were not voted, but which were consensual. And among them is a declaration on principles of relations between states on the basis of the Charter. And it clearly says, by consensus, everybody must respect territorial integrity of states whose governments respect the right of people for self-determination, and because of that, represent the entire population living on a given territory. To argue that the people who came to power through military coup d'etat in February 2014 represented Crimeans or the citizens of eastern and southern Ukraine is absolutely useless. It is obvious that Crimeans rejected the coup. They said, leave us alone, we don't want to have anything with you. So did Donbas. Crimeans held referendum, and they rejoined Russia. Donbas was declared by the putschists who came to power a terrorist group. They were shelled, attacked by artillery. The war started, which was stopped in February 2015. And the Minsk agreements were signed, and we were very sincerely interested in closing this drama by seeing Minsk agreements implemented fully.
我呢只说4个观点。第一个观点，我认为乌克兰局势依然无解，俄罗斯的观点没有发生任何变化，俄罗斯依然坚持我占领的土地不可能吐出来，俄罗斯依然坚持乌东地区的俄罗斯人拥有自决权，俄罗斯依然坚持如果西方国家升级战争，俄罗斯将对等升级。外交部长还是用一个比较缓和的语气表达了自己的态度，但大家都能读得出来，极其强硬，对吧？第二个观点，我并不是完全赞同俄罗斯所说的民族自决权，因为他们的说法将使世界上其他地区出现非常难办的情况。举2个例子吧。第一个就是哈萨克斯坦。 哈萨克斯坦的北部居住着大量的俄罗斯人，他们和乌克兰东部的俄罗斯人都有同样的感觉：我们属于俄罗斯，我们占领的土地也应该给俄罗斯。所以为了防止国家分裂，哈萨克斯坦把首都由之前南部的城市阿拉木图迁到了北部。但是对这些俄罗斯人，他们依然不放心。如果有朝一日哈萨克斯坦北部的俄罗斯人说我们要回归祖国，必然会引起俄罗斯打击哈萨克斯坦，不可避免，情况一模一样，这能被允许吗？第二个例子就是中国台湾，如果要尊重他所谓的民族自决权，台湾地区明天就将从国家分离出去，中国人能同意吗？不能同意。所以在这种情况之下，我认为国家主权应该高于所谓的自决权，国家统一也应该高于所谓的自决权。你们认为呢？第三个观点，我都怀疑这个卡尔森是不是特朗普派去试探水温的。大家都知道卡尔森极其亲特朗普，卡尔森与马斯克关系还非常不错。特朗普的战略目标就是什么呀？先稳住俄罗斯，全力打击中国，对付这样一个更加迫在眉睫的所谓竞争对手。所以他特别不愿意看到拜登把中俄捆绑到了一起去。拉夫罗夫的讲话也没有反对和美国缓和关系，甚至我却读出来了渴望和美国缓和关系。所以他们两家呢，其实都有相互走近的客观条件和主观愿望。好就好在拜登呢给他挖了很多的坑让他们俩很难暂时走到一起去，对不对？所以说在这种情况之下，我认为拜登被称为拜振华还是有一定道理的。第四个观点，到目前为止我依然认为乌克兰无法取得胜利。俄罗斯即使情况再难，瘦死的骆驼比马大。但是呢，我并不希望乌克兰快速倒下。乌克兰快速倒下，现在对中国其实并不一定有好处。你们认为呢？所以情势一直在变化，只有一点是不变的，坚定维护国家利益。